Hi, everybody. We are here for a new interview celebrating the 10th anniversary of the Italian Center for Single Session Therapy. Today, we'll be meeting with Michael Hoyt, Ph.D. Hi, Michael.
Hi, Esther. Hello.
He's a psychologist based in Mill Valley, California. Back in the mid 1980s, he was one of the original investigators, along with Moshe Talmon and Bob Rosenbaum, of the single session therapy approach. He has been the co editor of numerous books about single session therapy, the co author with Flavio Canistra of the book Brief Therapy Conversation, and is the author of the 2025 book Single Session Therapy, a clinical introduction to principle and practices. Who was the first person who told you about single session therapy?
I was thinking about this, and the project was with Moshe Talmon and Bob Rosenbaum, but many years earlier, my family and I had a personal problem, and we went to see a counselor for one session, single
Oh,
session therapy, and it was very helpful. And in college, I was very interested in Zen Buddhism and Sufi stories and all these enlightenment stories. And so I would read a lot about things like that. But the first person that ever said the word single session therapy to me was Moshe Talmon. Moshe, who's Israeli and he lives back near Tel Aviv now, uh,
mhm.
Moshe had a job at Kaiser Permanente, a large health organization in California. And he
Okay.
one day was in the office of the chief of the department. He was looking at some printouts about statistics and discovered one session was the most common length of therapy, whether it was the adult team, the child team, the chemical dependency team, whether they were psychodynamic or cognitive behavioral or strategic or family systems. And he got interested and he called a couple hundred patients to see, well, you only came once. And he thought they would be unhappy, but no, they were not unhappy. Most were very happy. It was good. So then Moshe approached Bob Rosenbaum and me and said, hey, let's do a study of single session therapy. Let's see what could get done if we intend to. We say it'll probably be one session. Let's see how it goes. We don't insist it's one, but one at a time. And that was the first study, and it was done in 1986, 87, 88. We were doing it in there. A book came out in 1990, Single Session Therapy. So that I think was the beginning. It's just amazing to me because I've been involved in this field. I do other things as well, but I've been involved in this field for 40 years, 40 years, you know. And when we did our first little study in Hayward, California, it's a suburb of Oakland in San Francisco. Who would have thought 40 years later, I would be talking to Esther on Zoom and we would be getting ready for the sixth international conference, and
Yeah.
there'd be dozens of books, and there'd be training centers in UK and in Italy and in Australia and in Calgary, Canada, and in San Antonio, Texas, and in Sweden, and all sorts of places. So it's just an amazing thing. We have an expression in England in English from little acorns, big oaks. From a little seed, something big grows. And to me, it's been very exciting. But Moshe was the one who first said the word single session therapy. I said, oh, that's interesting. Yeah. And then, when we began to read about it, uh, there were other people that used the term single session. There was a small literature case studies, but ours was the first prospective study, but so much has been done since. Yeah, so that's how I came. Uh,
Wow.
yeah,
And I'm so proud to be here interviewing you here in the 10th anniversary. So thank you, Michael.
yeah. Well, what happened then was I had retired from my job at Kaiser a couple of
Mhm.
in 2013, I think. And a year or two later, I got an email. Bing, you have an email from Flavio Canistra, some psychologist in
Yeah.
Italy. And I read it was interesting, and we started to talk back and forth. He was interested in brief therapy and maybe sing. And then I was teaching a class at Mental Research Institute, MRI,
Yeah.
which is in Palo Alto, California. It's about 1 hour from where I live. And Flavio came to the class. He flew all the way from Rome. He came to the class. We met. We went to dinner. I said, "Oh, come and stay at our house tomorrow. We have room, please." And so we instantly connected. We had this wonderful 8 hour conversation. And what about this? And what about that? And do you know about this? Oh, and isn't that interesting? And so that became, so in a way, I was at the beginning twice. I
Yeah.
was at the beginning of single session therapy, Moshe Talmon, 1986, 1990, and there. And then I was also near the beginning. I did not start the Italian Center. That was Flavio's idea, and with Federico and maybe some other people, they
Okay.
put that idea together. But I think I was part of that in the sense that, oh, there's a literature and there's excitement. And Flavio and I were standing in this very room that I'm sitting in now. This is my study.
Okay.
And as an afterthought, I took one of the books. I said, "Oh, I have extra copies. Would you like one of these?" And I gave him a book. And that book turned out to be very important in the sense of, oh, here's the idea of single session therapy, and there's steps, and yeah. So that's how it came to be. Uh, my experience in the Italian Center for Single Session Therapy is after Flavio was here. I think we were using Skype instead of
Yes.
Zoom. We Skyped a couple of times, and I appeared in seminars online, seminars
Yeah.
in Rome, and then I went to Rome and I co-taught a class with Federico and Flavio. Many years ago, when I was a college student, I studied Italian for 1 year.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, molti anni fa ho studiato la bellissima lingua italiano da solo 1 anno. And
Bravissimo.
I said everything I can say. So when I would try to speak Italian and Flavio did not laugh at me and he didn't go away, well, I knew we'd be good. Yeah. So
Yeah, it
that's,
probably is what is happening now with all the interview that I'm running with my terrible English. So yeah, I can understand the feelings.
yeah. I've been very thrilled and pleased. I'm at the point in my life, I'm in my late 70s. I'm still alive, I'm okay, but I've been around a long time. So one of the things I'm interested in now is helping the younger generation, passing the torch, who's going to go next, who's going to take over. And so seeing what the Italian Center has been doing, it's the premier training center in Europe. And then there's, as I said, there's people in Texas and Canada and Australia and Sweden and other places. But to see all these things going on, it's very, very exciting. I wrote a book, you mentioned it, just happen to have a copy right here. I wrote this book
Uh-huh.
in 2025. It got published. But since then, I've been working on it a lot for a second edition. It'll be another year or two. But there's so much that has happened even in the last 2 years, different ideas and more stuff on the internet and working with kids more and how are we going to do things with couples and families and how do you use the single session one at a time idea in other settings, group settings and counseling settings, and not necessarily just for psychotherapy, that there's so many new things going on and different kinds of research that can be done. What would work best with which people? Um, all of those kind of questions. And it's really a very exciting time. In one way, I wish I was 40 years old and just hearing about it. I'd say, oh, I could be very interested in this. To me, the thing that made it so interesting, there's several things. One is I really like the idea of helping people quickly,
Yeah.
getting rid of suffering, helping them make a change. That's a big one. A second one is the people who I have met, Flavio and lots of other people. Oh, nice people, intelligent people, hard workers, and an international group. So that's how you think about it if you're European. Oh, that's how you think about it if you're Japanese. Oh, that's how you think about it if you're coming from India or you're Mexican or wherever. It's all the different ideas. That's good. But I really like the idea. The thing that's most exciting to me is the idea of promoting the client's ability, competence, capacities, their strengths, rather than the doctor being the expert and the patient is sick and broken, and I got to figure out what's wrong and diagnose it and then fix it. I like the idea the client has skills, some of which they may not be aware of or they're not using very well. And part of my job is to figure out what they could do better to help themselves. And I can add some ideas as well. But I very much like this whole idea of it's truly client-centered or human-centered or people-centered. And it's not basically a pathology model. It's a model of one at a time, look for their strengths. How could they apply some of that in the situation they're dealing with? Uh, they can always come back if they need to, but a lot of times people go, wow, with that idea, I think I can work on this on my own for a while. And so that to me has been part of the excitement of it. And it's fun just to go to a conference and all these people are talking about this stuff, and
Yeah.
it's just amazing to me. It's
Yeah.
I mean, it's only a small what I like another colleague of mine and I just wrote a book. We just sent it to a publisher, and it's not especially on single session, but it's on narrative constructivism, on how people tell their story and retell their story, and how they build their image of reality, and what they include and don't include, and what they see as possibilities, and all of that. And that part is to me very appealing because it's a better way of looking at things. I once wrote a book called Some Stories Are Better Than
Better than
Others.
others. Yeah.
And I like the stories that are better, that are more inspiring, they're fun, they encourage people, they have a certain creativity or poetry or excitement in them. That's that's what I particularly like. But for the Italian Center, I remember 10 years ago talking with Flavio, and it's a big, as you know, it's a big, big, big job, a big enterprise to create. We're going to have training, and we're going to have to advertise and billing and teachers and seminars and all the legal stuff and the IT stuff, how you get it to work on the. It's an enormous enterprise, and we have to have a space to do it and get more students and it's and I get all the advertisements in Italian. I
Yeah.
try to read them, but it just amazes me how much you've created a world. It's not just single session therapy. It's colleagues and training and seminars and groups and places where people can go want some help with a problem, and maybe they'll get it in one visit. If they don't, at least they'll be connected with somebody who can help them if they need more. Yeah, so it's very exciting. I'm just pleased as could be.
And what do you think is the future of the single session therapy?
What do I think is the future? Um, the short word is more,
Okay.
more, more. Just more single session, more therapists, more training, more approaches, more research, more international. Uh, I also belong to a generation. I grew up before the computer, or just when the computer was coming, sort of. And now I have friends that have a 3-year-old child, and the whatever you call this thing, the control is like part of their hand. They don't think about it any more than I think about opening my eyes or turning my head. They just do it. And so there's whole new worlds of ways of thinking, of approaching problems, of what information can be available. So there's worlds out there that are opening up that I barely know anything about. And
Yeah.
so it would be fun to come back in 30 years and say, oh wow, look what they did and how they did that. And yeah,
Something like Back to the Future movie, huh?
yeah, like Back to the Future. That would be fun. Oh, I've seen what it's going to be. Yeah. Uh, I remember, I remember in the what was that movie with Dustin Hoffman a long time ago? And they gave him bad advice. He said, "What's the future?" And they said, "Plastics." They should have said computers. But yeah, so but I think more of all of it, what's exciting is also people from different nationalities, ethnicities, cultures. So how do you do this if if you live in this area versus if you live in that area? It's not one size fits everybody. But what I like about it is that it's transnational or international, that well, what are the strengths that people use in this culture? And how would they frame the problem there? And something that would make sense to me, somebody would say, I could never say that to my family. Or I would say, well, why don't you say that? Yes. So just all the ethnic angles that are coming into it. It's also, I think, another area we're going to see more of is this whole area of what people are calling cultural diversity. So, how do
Okay.
people do it from different ethnic groups, sexual groups, social groups, uh, levels of education, levels of acculturation to different value systems? So, one of the things I sometimes see is people developing a questionnaire on for training in single session therapy. And I think it's good to train, of course. But I think we have to realize there's more than one kind of single session therapy. And so you're not just training people to do narrative single session or solution focused single session or Ericksonian strategic single session. So the real things that make a single session are one at a time, powers in the patient, applying to the situation at hand, those kind of an ideas. So yeah, it's a very exciting time. When I was a I'm talking a lot here, but when I was a graduate student, I got my PhD in 1976, a long time ago. And then I moved back to California. And in the early 80s in California, we had the Esalen Institute and Human Potential Training, and we had MRI, and we had the Western Institute of Family Therapy, and we had Fritz Perls, and Albert Ellis and Salvador Minuchin was beginning to write books, and Steve DeShazer went to MRI and he met Insoo Kim Berg, and that turned into this. And so it was a very exciting time of possibilities and new ways of thinking about things. And I think we're on the edge of that kind of energy again, that there's going to be a lot more ideas and ways to apply things. Uh, so uh, my word, you asked me, you sent me an email and you said, is there anything you want to particularly say? Just thank you and congratulations. Thank you
Yeah.
for something that I had something to do with at the beginning. Here, it's your baby. Take good care of it. Grow it up, please. Be good to it. And, so thank you for doing all that and just the excitement of it. It's very it's if I look over, you can't see on the floor, but there's all the single session therapy books sitting here and a few other books. And I reach over and I pull one out and I pull another one out. And it's just an amazing thing to me. And I I'm hoping maybe next year, I don't know, maybe I'll be in Rome or somewhere next year. I know there's going to be the conference in Exeter, England. Uh, and that's only a train trip or a quick airplane to somewhere else, but spend some time. Yeah. Esther, let me ask you, what's your favorite thing about single session therapy?
What's my favorite thing? I'm living in the north of Italy and nobody ever heard about single session therapy. So it's very strange how people are curious about this typical approach. So they come to my studio and they say, are you sure with just one session you can help me? And I say, let's try. And people come back and they say, oh, you were right. I want to talk with about another problem. Please help me. So it's about that people don't know that just one session can be very useful for them. We, in the position that I'm not the expert, but they are the expert of their problem. So it's very
Yeah.
powerful and also put me in a way that I'm not the magician, but we can do this work together if you really want to change.
I had a supervisor when I started many years ago who said to me, most long-term therapy is the same mistakes repeated for months and years. You're
Oh,
doing, and he said, you need to do something different, not just more of the same when it doesn't really work. I said, like what? He said, oh, find out what their goal is. Find out what they could do to move toward their goal. Why now do they call? What are they excited about? Oh, yeah. And so I think a lot of what the single session idea has been is strike while the iron is hot, or go forward. This is an opportunity, a moment right now that something good could happen.
yeah.
And yeah, so it's good.
But
Oh,
thank you, Michael, because it's thankfully to you and all the others that the single session therapy arrived in Italy. And thank you to the Italian Center for the 10th anniversary that is giving us all this special, practice because in Italy is very new. It's not like in the United States.
well, thank you. And I hope we get to meet again very soon, maybe even
Yeah.
in person. I'm also, like I said, from the other world. I have on my computer screen a little picture of the globe here. It amazes me. I can look at the screen and I see, wait a minute, she's in the middle of Italy somewhere, and I'm in Northern California. And to
Yeah.
me, it's in the morning, and to her, it's in the sera in the
Yeah.
afternoon. It's an amazing thing that all of this has happened. I like it. It's funny. Yeah. Well, thank you again for your interest and for doing what you're doing. And until we meet again,
Yeah. Thank you, Michael, for your time.
you're, thank
Bye.
you. Bye bye. Ciao.